Hi guys, Yacca here. So we have a bunch of more cards heading up this part 5 of the Scholomance Academy card review. And we have a package deal in this one for Warlock and Demon Hunter over the course of the review of the cards. So let's head on in and see what we have in store for us. First one we'll be talking about is a spell, a 3-mana spell called Gift of Luminance. It gives a minion Divine Shield and then summons a 1/1 copy of that minion. The card in itself are within the minion buff classes of Paladin and Priest. And I think there's a fair chance that this might see play. It's just there's a much higher chance for this to see play in Priest. Looking through what I was thinking about when I was looking at this card was the applicability, for instance, in Death Rattles. Death Rattles is where this is really good, or maybe with Torch and stuff like that. But really where you generate some extra value, like Lifesteal, Death Rattle, Reborn effects, and stuff like that, out of copying a minion. And there are not that many available in Paladin. However, in Priest, we have Grave Room, we have Mindflayer Karsh, a legendary 3/3 minion with Death Rattle. Target one of your opponent's minions and summon a copy of that one. So if you do that on 3 mana, and then you are able to copy that exact minion with Gift of Luminance, even giving that one Divine Shield, then you can have some really powerful turns where you swing the board back in your favor. Also, just Convincing Infiltrator, which is a more or less standard card for any kind of control priest at the moment. So copying that one, giving both Divine Shield and then just eliminating your opponent's minions. This seems like a very, very strong card for priest control decks. But I'll just give it 1 star, but there's a fair chance that it sees play in Priest the way I see it, and therefore I rate it 3 stars for Constructed. In Arena, it's kind of the same deal, because for this one to have enough value, you would... What I essentially mean is that you wouldn't mind drafting a 3-mana 3/1 with Divine Shield. So the only thing that you need for this one to be good, or good enough in Arena, is just a 3 attack minion. And that's usually something that you can already provide on turn 2. So even this can be considered a curve play, and because if you have that minion lingering around, you'll drop it on this one. That one gets Divine Shield, can do a value trade, and then you also have another minion lingering. You're not going to be that much assured that you'll get Reborn and Death Rattles and stuff like that. But the upside of this one in the Arena is that you might have it. And even if you do not, it's still a very fine card to draft. The only shortcoming on this one is that you need to have a board in order to do this. So in a top deck situation, you can of course target your opponent's minion. So you can use it kind of no matter what, but still it is much more efficient and desirable that you have a board and then you can use Gift of Luminance. So I also rated 3 stars there. It's good to draft. You'll definitely don't mind picking this one. It's good for the early game, it's good for the late game. So a good solid card for Arena and for Constructed applicability in Priest. Next card is a dual class between Hunter and Druid, and it's a low cost spell. I do not rate it really high, mainly due to the fact that neither Hunter nor Druid has a viable archetype at the moment around tokens and small minions. Druid had that in the past, and it might still come back. So therefore this card needs some support for it to work, but there could actually be a deck for it in Constructed. the chance for it with the card that we're seeing right now doesn't seem all that viable. It might be shamed completely, who knows? But the impact of the card suggests that you want, for instance, to use this maybe as a spellburst activator. And there it can be something that you want to include in the deck because the low cost of the low cost of the card could be good enough that you drop whatever spell burst card and you throw out the adorable infestation right away. I just don't see the card at the moment, not from a neutral or class perspective. But this might change up when some more cards are revealed for the classes. But right now, with what we know, this is not going to be impactful enough or support some kind of game plan for either class. Just so you can see the cup that is summoned. Just what the card even does is it's a 1-mana card. It buffs a minion with +1/+1, and it summons one of these 1/1 beasts, the Marshul Cup, and it adds another cup to your hand. So that's kind of the effect, and there's a bunch of things in the card. It does a lot for 1 mana, but it's not that powerful. So based on that, the logic behind the card, the way I see it, is that it needs to have some kind of auxiliary effect with, for instance, spell burst. So for constructed, there's not a suit right now. It might still be good. It's, as I said, it does a lot for 1 mana, but right now I don't really see a suit for it. Looking to Arena, this is definitely a fine card there. It messes up your opponent's turn because for instance, you have a board and you sit there, and whenever you are in Arena, you calculate what kind of trades can my opponent do, what can I push face with if he doesn't have any initiative cards. And this is an initiative card, however, only in the case where you do have a minion on board. You generate some more stuff, but the cups that you summon doesn't have rush or taunt, so it does not affect the board right away. But it's a nice card to shift the math around just a little bit, and you can do favorable trades, you can push a little bit more damage and stuff like that. No, those cards are fine in the Arena. Probably don't want to run that many, but this could, even if you have a solid curve, you have a 1-drop already on the board, this could actually even be a 2-drop, because then you buff the 1-drop, summon a 1/1 cup, and then you can drop the Marshul Cup that you generated in your hand as another minion, taking you into a solid turn 2. But then you need a really aggressive draft for this to actually work. But it's possible if the meta is really quick. Either way, a solid card. You do not mind running this at all, and it's going to be strong enough that you'll see it in drafts, and you'll see it when you run them or your opponent runs these cards. It's going to be a good card. Next up, we have a mage common minion, 1-drop with 1 attack and 3 health. So the stat line is really great for this one, and it even has spell damage +1. So the lab partner, if there's going to be, it seems like there's some support at the moment, but so far with the spell damage minions that we've seen released for mage, I still do not think that this is a strong card. Definitely in constructed, it needs to be considered more or less cheating. You need to do some crazy stuff there, and I do not think the spell damage accumulation of what we have so far with Mosaki that I reviewed earlier, the legendary minion, and for instance stuff like that partner and other spell damage minions for mage, I still do not think that's enough to push an archetype for mage which is viable. So the card is strong, just looking at the card, but the deck that could be there for it, I do not believe it will exist in the coming meta. If the deck will be there, that there's something revolving around spell damage, yes, Lab Partner will be an inclusion there, and it's going to be a good card for that deck. I just do not see that it's all that viable. Decks right now, which has a bunch of low-cost spells or spells in general, are without minions in it, and that makes the deck even more powerful. It's great that it's in the game. Font of Power, which is a 1-mana spell which generates minions. It's great that it's there as a drop that you can get and screw up the math just a little bit. Maybe you can push for lethal, maybe you can do a little bit more board clear and stuff like that. So it's great that it's in the game. You just don't want to run it in the decks that you'll see right now for Mage, unless it turns out that the archetype for spell damage is really powerful. So that's for Constructed. However, for Arena, just this solidly statted minion with an upside effect of spell damage +1, that's really something that you would love to get in the Arena. So therefore, this is definitely a 4-star card in Arena, because the sheer power level of the card in itself, as I mentioned, is powerful, and that is what makes it good for Arena. So you can do favorable trades, you can do stuff with spells, you can use this in combination with your hero power to ping off some different stuff to control the board. It has a bunch of good use cases, and it's really good early game, and it also has some utility late game. So 4-star card, definitely something you don't mind in the draft. As long as you keep your curve in consideration. You don't want too many 1-drops, but you don't want to end up in a situation where you do not have early game cards as well. So therefore, a powerful Arena card, and not so much for Constructed. Next one, we have a rogue spell. It's a 1-mana spell called Secret Passage. So you find a secret passage somewhere in the Academy. What the card does is that it takes the hand that you have currently, and you shove that in your deck, and you replace that with 5 cards that you have in your deck. And then next turn, when it's your next turn, I assume it's going to be before you draw a card, then you swap back and draw a card. I rate this really powerful, because really what you want to do in Rogue is that you have a bunch of... Rogue has a great tempo style play, and just having that possibility, saying, well, you might have the wrong tempo cards for either controlling the board, killing off minions, buffing whatever, going phase, or developing whatever you need to develop. But then you can do this swap, and then these cards that you put back into your deck, that you then draw on the next turn, so you have like a really fast turn. You could have 0 cards or just 1 card in your hand, where you push this back, and then you draw the 5 cards, and you could do some crazy stuff with it. And then afterwards, you developed a bunch of stuff on the board. You made a power turn, and this is definitely something that is good for Rogue. So just looking at it, it's 1 mana, draw 5 cards. How much the drawback of you having to put the remaining cards back in the deck, that's going to be interesting to see. But having such a powerful draw effect, for instance, Sprint, which were run or have been run in somewhat recent meta decks, that's a 7 mana card, draw 4 cards. So this is 1 mana, draw 5 cards, but with the drawback that you have to put remaining cards back in the deck and take the hand back that you had before. But still, I just see it as, for the majority of the how to understand the card and what it does for Rogue, it's a 1 mana draw 5 cards. They're so powerful. It will be tried and tested. I think it will hold up to what Rogue needs to do and what they have been good at in the past and probably will in the future, having a tempo playstyle. So it's a good card where you can shift up the game plan somewhat for Rogue, and I think this is going to be run in the deck at least as a one-off, but it could also be that you want to run 2 in the deck to have a couple of options to shift stuff back and forth. For Arena, it's kind of the same notion. Looking at Arena, you have your some different mechanics, which is also, of course, part of the constructed scene, but very much more focal for Arena. So you have your board, your value, and your tempo. Each and every time you play a card, you do some kind of tempo play. But getting card advantage, getting more cards, is kind of a value approach which you can translate into tempo. And this is really what Secret Passage does. So if you, for instance, you expend all your cards, you draw Secret Passage as a top deck, you drop this, you can use, maybe you can use all 5 cards, maybe you have enough mana to do that. And then you shuffle nothing back and draw nothing, but you essentially got a swing turn of having to, you can spend 9 mana on these 5 cards in a way that will further your game plan, develop yourself on the board, and all this kind of stuff, just for 1 mana. And of course you're back in a top deck situation, but then you've had a powerful turn late game, and you could also just sit with a clunky hand. Well, then drop the Secret Passage, see what you can do. You spend 1 mana to get some chance to do something in order for you not to fall behind on the board. So it's a powerful Arena card, and it's not going to be, sometimes the powerful cards are going to be dead cards, either in a top deck situation or if you don't have a board or whatever might be the case. But this doesn't really have a drawback in Arena, whereas it does have a little one in Constructed. But I see that you can build a deck around this, so it's kind of mitigated. And for Arena, it's just powerful. 1 mana, draw 5 cards, expend the mana, and then redraw the hand that you had before. It's such a good Arena card, and looking forward to play with it, honestly, to see if it is this good. But it seems kind of naughty having this much card draw out of a 1 mana investment, and having this 1 card slot reserved for this spell. So we'll see, but I think it's going to be good. Next up, we have a 6 mana spell called Runic Carvings. And the Runic Carvings is a collaboration between Shaman and Druid. So the card states, choose one. You either summon 4 2/2 treants, which are also totems. It will have, you can see them here. So it's going to be a treant totem with the tribal tag totem on it. If you want to, the choose one effect is that you either summon 4 treant totems, or you summon 4 treant totems with rush. And then the downside of giving them rush is going to be that you're overloaded for 2 mana on the next turn. Having this versatility, right now it seems like we have Totem Shaman as a proven concept. And I was thinking when I saw the Totem Goliath, it needs maybe a little bit more totem support, and I think this might be the stuff that we need for Totem Shaman to be a viable option. It is kind of there at the moment. I've had success with it in tournaments and also on ladder, so I definitely think Totem Shaman is a good enough suit for this. It's just that maybe if it would have been 1 less treant or 1 less treant and a couple of mana less or something like that, that might have assisted the Totem Shaman are just a little bit better. But then again, the kind of shortcoming for the deck when you play totems is if you fall behind, there's a good chance that you are not able to push yourself back on the board. And having this option to go with rush totems, this might be what the class really needs, because that's kind of where I see that I get beat with the totem deck, is when my opponent gets on the board with a higher tempo than I'm able to do. This might actually be what they need, and I think it's strong enough to give it a 4-star rating, because it really suits the archetype really, really well from the Shaman perspective. I'm not sure the Treant is going to be significant enough if we look at this from a Druid perspective, but I do not segregate the ratings, and there's still Druids if it's going to be something that where there's a focus around generating tokens, which they got a couple of cards to support. And Runic Caverns is probably something, because it generates 4 minions, probably something that could actually end up being somewhat good in a Druid token archetype. But we'll need to see. But definitely right now, out of the two classes, I think it's a better suit for Shaman, but we'll see. For Arena, choose effects are really strong, and getting multiple, you're looking at this from a vanilla test point of view, you pay 6 mana for stats of 8/8, so you sum them up and it's going to be distributed among 4 bodies, but you'll have 8 attack and 8 health. And just having this distributed among different bodies in Arena, so you have a whiteboard, is sometimes really good. You talk about having narrow and high boards where you have 1 minion with, it could be a 6 mana 8/8 taunt or whatever. That's a high board, 1 minion that is strong, but that's very susceptible to heart removal. So that's kind of where you need to have the reads. So if you are sitting with a 6 mana minion which does something like I just described, or Runic Carvings, then you really have to make your skills in the Arena count, saying what tells do have your opponent been showing you. Do you already have kind of a whiteboard where it would have been perfect to do a board clear? Well, then it's probably somewhat safe to do some trades and drop Runic Carvings, because then the chance for your opponent to have one is probably not all that great. But if your opponent kind of indicates, well, I can't really get I can't do the board clears, but I have some powerful cards that I'm sitting on, I'm not really playing, I'm just trying to keep up, but they're not challenging the broad board, they might sit with some heart removal. And this is kind of where you, that's kind of the reason that tells that you need to figure out an Arena. But for the specific situation, it's going to be strong. And that's why I rate 4 stars in the Arena as well, because it has a good use case and it develops a broad board. And generally, that's a good thing, especially for those two classes which has good board-wide buffs. Next one is also a dual class card between Paladin and Priest, and it's an epic card. It states that it costs 6 mana for a 4/5 Divine Shield and Taunt, with the added effect of costing 1 less for each spell you cast on a friendly character this game. The 4 constructed. Just looking at the card, it's just a stronger Sunwalker. The Sunwalker has this exact stat line: 6 mana 4/5 with Divine Shield and Taunt, and that's it. No upside. And that right now is not played in any decks. But for this one, maybe especially for Paladin, seems like this could be a good suit for a pure Paladin build, or a Libram Paladin, whatever you'd like to call it, because there's a bunch of buffs through the Librams, and Hand of Dahl and all this kind of stuff, which will make this cheaper. And that deck right now, the way it's played, is very much around survivability and all this kind of stuff. And the deck could just replace, I've seen deck list with Overconfident Orc, which is a 3 mana 1/6, where it has a couple of more attack if it's not damaged. And also maybe Amber Watchers. I think that's Amber Watcher, a dragon. But there's no dragon synergy in the deck, so you don't really need the dragon tribal tag for the card. So therefore, this could be just a straight up better replacement in an already existing deck. The only challenge for the deck so far is that it is somewhat low on the tier list, and if this one is going to be pushing it up the tier list, I'm not sure, but it has a fit maybe also in tournaments where you try to counter specific builds of your opponent and stuff like this. So it is something that you could see used, and it is viable in certain situations if the pure paladin or something like that, like a board centric, you want to buff stuff and play stuff on your own minions. If that is going to be a deck which is good, then you'll include this either in Priest, but definitely also in Paladin, the way I see it. So 4 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars for the Arena, because for Arena you don't mind at all picking a Sunwalker, and if you get the effect off, it's just even better. So in Arena, a really strong card. It lets you dictate some board attention in a way that you can protect some of the minions, where you can use them to do value trades, or maybe push for lethal and stuff like that. So Devout Pupil is definitely something that is really strong in Arena, and just without any reduction in cost, it's still going to be a good Arena card. And the upside is definitely there, that you have some good possibility to use case this. It's going to be epic. It's not going to be something that breaks the Arena. You'll see a lot more common and rare cards, but when it's there, it's definitely something to consider if you don't have already all your late game sorted. So yeah, a good Arena card. You don't mind picking this. It's definitely good there. And for Constructed, there's a suit for it already. If the deck is going to be competitively viable, we'll see. And then we get to the package deal between Warlock and Demon Hunter, as I teased a little bit in the beginning. There was kind of a complete package reveal around a specific mechanic, which is called the Soul Fragments. The card that we are looking at right now is a 1-mana card, 1/3, with a battle cry. Shuffle 2 Soul Fragments into your deck. The Soul Fragments are 0-mana spells. When you draw them, they'll be auto-cast, and you'll heal 2 points of damage. So you'll heal 2 points, and you'll draw another card. So it's not going to be something where you draw this and okay, that was your all of your card draw. So just looking at this from what the upside is, it seems like it's really good. But generally for the Soul Fragments, it's going to be a package deal for Constructed. So it's going to be a somewhat similar rating. I'll show you when we get through some of the rest of the cards. And I am going to be right about it from a star point of view for all the cards, or wrong from all of them. If it's not going to be strong enough to be played, all of them is going to be wrong. It is kind of something where you build your deck to do something, and then you need a little bit more oomph in the deck, because there's going to be some really powerful effects around the Soul Fragments. And if you have room for this package deal in the deck, then you would definitely want to include them. So if there's room for it in decks, they're going to see play, and that's why I rate this 3 stars. And for Arena, it's kind of the same deal. Maybe you could argue it's a 4-star card, but I think it is. It depends very much on the deck that you have, and whether it's powerful enough. I think I might be wrong on the Arena rating, but we'll see. I stand firm to the argument that there's 1 mana 1/3 where you shuffle in some Soul Fragments, because the Soul Fragments is going to be heals in Arena. It's not going to be all that. You need to look at the effect of the card and not what you put in the deck, because whatever you put in the deck is not relevant in the Arena. It's what you present on the board, the power level of what you have there. So it's it's okay, but the battle grind itself is kind of diminutive in the Arena. So it's just looking at that. If disregard the battle cry, I rate it as 3 stars in the Arena, and based on all the arguments that I've just made for the constructed side, it goes in a package deal if Soul Fragments is going to be good in constructed. Next up, we have a Demon Hunter card, weapon, 4 mana weapon with a 4 attack and 2 durability. It has a battle cry where it also shuffles 2 Soul Fragments into the deck. The Marrow Slicer, weapons in general in Arena is really powerful. So looking at from an Arena perspective, I rate this 4 stars because it is a good and fine. It's kind of like a true Silver Sword, because it's just a little. You could argue it's a little bit worse because there's a delay effect. When you hit with the true Silver Sword, you attack and you heal 2 points of health. So essentially, over the course of the weapon lifetime, it has the same stat line of 4 mana 4/2. Over the course of the lifetime of the weapon, these do exactly the same thing. They heal you for 4 damage, and they deal 8 points of damage over 2 turns. So it's exactly the same. There's just a delayed effect on the heals. And True Silver Sword is definitely really powerful in Arena, and so is the Marrow Slice. It's going to be. It's not going to be life total is not only going to be relevant towards the very late stages of the game, and you need to invest your life total in controlling the board, and that's why Marrow Slicer is so good at doing this. And you eventually down the line might have this upside of drawing into the Soul Fragments. You're not going to be counting on it, but just having the weapon is really good. For constructed, it's kind of the same arguments as the rest. You're going to hear me say, I'll be saying that a lot. It goes in a package deal for Demon Hunter if you have the Soul Fragments package going to be good for constructed. Then you'll include this. Then we have a Warlock card coming up, and this has a different effect from the rest. This actually destroys a Soul Fragment. So just reading out the card, it's a 3 mana card, 3 attack for life, with a battle cry. Destroy a Soul Fragment, a single Soul Fragment in the deck to deal 3 damage. So this means that you have a targeted 3 damage effect, and this you can target minions, you can target the face, so it's also reach. But the notion is still going to be the same. If Soul Fragments is going to be a good package for Warlock, Shadowlight Scholar is going to be good. It's going to be run, because using your Soul Fragments like that, investing those in board control or damage, it could be a card where you use it both aggressively, kind of in a Zoo playstyle, and also to push some damage toward the later stages of the game, just to bypass taunts and stuff like that. It can suit that, but it can also suit kind of a combo or like early board control against aggressive decks. So it kind of falls in both categories. It just needs to be run in unison with all other Soul Fragment cards. And if there's room for it in the deck, it's going to be good, it's going to be included. For Arena, it's a little bit of a higher rating. I rated 4 stars as well, because just the stat line behind the card. There's an upside that you might have Soul Fragments, you might not, but the stat line of the card at 3 mana 3/4, it's a good card. You don't mind running that, even though you don't get the battle cry off. And with the upside of the battle cry, it is immensely powerful. So therefore, a solid Arena card, 4 stars, perfectly fine. You want to pick this even though you don't have Soul Fragments in the draft. Then we're back to Demon Hunter, and we have the Soul Shard Lapidary. It's a 5 mana 5/5, so okay vanilla test, vanilla stat line. A common card with the battle cry of destroying a soul fragment in your deck, just like the one that we talked about. And then your hero will get a +5 attack for this turn specifically. Of course, the effect is really powerful, but again, I only rated 3 stars because it needs to be run in unison with the other Soul Fragment cards. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. Yes, it'll be run, kinda guess, in both in a mid-range control, aggressive kind of approach for Demon Hunter, but only if the package for Soul Fragments is going to be good. For Arena, it's a 5 mana 5/5. You can't expect the battle cry to take effect, so it's only going to be 3 stars there, as opposed to some of the other cards which are standalone, a good enough stat line, a good enough card in the Arena that you want to pick it no matter the battle cry, no matter that you get shuffled in. This is just a card if you need some card to smooth out the curve on 5 mana. Sure, you don't mind picking Soul Shard Lapidary. Lapidary. I'm not sure. I'm not an indigenous English speaker, so I hope I get this right, but you'll have to bear with me. So it is definitely something that is okay. It's not going to be crazy or broken in Arena, but you'll see it a lot. And if you do have some kind of synergy, it could be really good. But it's an okay card in Arena. You don't mind drafting it, but it's not going to break the Arena in any way. Then we have a Demon Hunter card, class card called Short Shadow Mystic. It's 3 mana, 3 attack, 2 health minion, with a battle cry effect that destroys the soul fragment in your deck to deal 3 damage to all other minions, also your own. But this is a really strong battle cry in order to do kind of a... This is much more focused around doing a control Demon Hunter, which actually seems that it could be viable. But again, this might be the one exclusion if you are going to build an aggressive Soul Fragment deck for Demon Hunter. If you want to build a mid-range or a control Demon Hunter, then the Short Shadow Mystic is definitely a good inclusion if the package of the Soul Fragment is going to be run. So again, like the other ones, I rated 3 stars. It comes with the package. For Arena, it is completely different. There you need to look at the individual power level of the card, because you're not guaranteed to get Soul Fragments. And if you actually, even for this case, do get a Soul Fragment, it might even hurt you a little bit more than it'll actually help you. If you are, for instance, ahead on the board, it's going to be a dead card in your hand, you can't play it. But at the power level of the card, it is not even passing the vanilla test of being a 3 mana 3/2. So even though you don't have any Soul Fragments that will hurt you, then it's not going to be a powerful minion to drop on turn 3. It's really going to be a turn 2 minion, which is just 1 more mana expensive. So for Arena, it's a bad card. Again, I rated 2 stars because if you do get Soul Fragments, it could be worth the draft. But again, individually, not a good Arena card. For Constructed, it could be part of the package of Soul Fragments. Then we have a Warlock class card called Skew Spirits. It's a 3 mana card that deals 2 damage to all minions, including your own, and then you shuffle 2 soul fragments into your deck. Again, this is very much revolving around the soul fragment strategy, and it's going to be a good inclusion in a deck where you want to use soul fragments. That said, for Arena, and that's why it's 3 stars, for Arena, it's going to be good. The soul fragments are kind of fine, but we've seen in the past, for instance, a volcanic potion for mage does exactly the same thing. It's a 3 mana, deal 2 damage to the entire board, and that was it. So the upside of having the soul fragments were even part of the old card, Volcanic Potion. And Volcanic Potion was a good arena card. It let you do something on the board. It let you catch up on the board, so you could invest some of the minions that you had, do a wide board clear, and then you still, for instance, in the later stages of the game, you still had some mana to invest in redeveloping the board and swinging the board back in your favor. Therefore, in Arena, even though you do not have any build around for soul fragments, it's a 4-star card that allows you to utilize a catch-up strategy, which is good to have some options of whenever you do a draft in the Arena. Another dual class card, also with the soul fragments synergy. It's a 2 mana card, a 2 mana spell, which deals 3 damage to a minion. There's 2 mana, deal 3 damage to a minion, and then shuffle 2 soul fragments into your deck. This I rate a little bit different, because having that breakpoint saying, well, you do a 2 mana 3 damage to a minion. I know right now you have spells which is 1 mana deal 3 damage to a minion, but having this available in those 2 classes specifically as a small removal for minions, that is really powerful, and therefore I see this could actually find a spot in a deck which does something with small removal, even though you don't run the soul fragment strategy. And for Arena, a powerful card, a 2 mana 3 damage minion targeted spell, perfectly fine. So I rated 4 stars for both game modes, and it's probably going to see play in a soul fragment deck, but it can see some kind of use case outside it. Finally, the last card to top it off, which is the legendary between Warlock and Demon Hunter. So it's Soul that was difficult to pronounce. Soul Geologist, Militia. It's a 7 mana 5/5, so the stats aren't all that great, but with a battle cry stating for each soul fragment in your deck, you summon a 3/3 soul with Rush. Mind you, this time you don't expend the crystals, the soul fragments. It'll still be in the deck, but just how many ever you got in there is gonna generate these released souls, which is just 3/3s with Rush. But the effect behind this one is so powerful. I almost want to rate it like 4 stars, or maybe I wouldn't go as far as maybe 5 stars, but rate it 4 stars. But it needs to follow the same kind of logic as the rest of the cards that we reviewed with the soul fragments. If you have it in your deck, if you run soul fragments, yes, Soul Geologist Militia is going to be a good and powerful inclusion. For 7 mana, having this board-wide effect, that's really powerful. And you still have your soul fragments that you could draw into and heal, or expend in some other way with some of the other minions that we've seen as part of the review. So perfectly fine, very good card, and something that will actually help push the inclusion of a soul fragment package in probably more decks between Warlock and Demon Hunter. So interesting. It's going to be maybe a stable over the course of the complete new expansion that one or more of the meta decks that you'll see will run this package, and Militia will have a good um, will have a good influence in that way, because it's a really powerful card. For Arena, as you can see, I rated 1 star. It is really poor because, again, Soul Fragments, you're not guaranteed to get them, and you might, if you have one card that does it, or maybe two, you'll draw them before you get Militia down, and therefore, from the vanilla test, 7 mana 5/5 is just a really bad card in Arena. Sure, if you end up having a complete crazy deck when you get offered this as a legendary and you have a bunch of Soul Fragments already, sure, go ahead and pick it. But what if you have this where there's not a lot of it, or if this is one of the first legendary picks that you get offered as one of the first cards, don't pick it. It's not going to be, probably not going to be viable. But generally in Constructed, a good card that pushes the archetype, pushes the package, and I'm really thrilled to see this. It seems like that this is definitely something that will define some of the classes, some of the class decks that we'll see, at least in the early stages of the meta. So a good package that has been developed for the classes, and really thrilled to try it out and see how powerful it really is. If it's not going to be like sometimes inclusion, if it's going to be really powerful, that's going to be somewhat interesting to experience. So 3 stars Constructed, 1 star in Arena. So guys, this sums up part 5 of the card review for Scholomance Academy, and I'm still psyched for the expansion to come out. And we haven't even seen, we're getting close, but we haven't even seen half the cards already. And of course, some of the very strong cards are always part of the initial stages of the game, and so a lot of the combos, the decks, the game plans are presented. But for Arena, the really interesting part is still to come, because sometimes the really strong Arena cards are actually part of the card dump towards the very end. So that's going to be interesting. That's really the defining meta for the Arena. But this was fun to go through, and thanks for watching, guys.